The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was enormous. Thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds sat in their designated seats. Some had fur, some had scales, and some were made of energy that glowed softly in the dim light. They all gathered here 4 times a year to discuss important matters that affected the entire galaxy. High Chancellor Vryn stood at the center podium. His reptilian skin was dark green and reflected the lights above him. He was old, very old, and had seen many cycles of the council. Today, like many days before, he had to address an uncomfortable topic. "We must discuss the matter of Earth once again," Vryn said, his voice carrying through the massive chamber. A wave of murmurs spread through the assembled delegates. Some shifted in their seats. Others made sounds that translated to sighs or groans through their communication devices. "How many meetings have they missed now?" asked Ambassador Kelra, a floating being from the mist worlds. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. A small insect-like creature named Tick checked his datapad. 200 consecutive assemblies, Chancellor. 50 years by their measurement of time." More whispers filled the hall. 50 years was a long time, even by galactic standards. Vryn continued. "Our diplomatic envoys report the same message every time they approach Earth's territory. The humans politely thank them for coming, then ask them to leave. No explanations. No negotiations. Just a firm request to stay away." "Perhaps they have gone extinct," suggested one delegate from the far side of the room. "Species collapse happens. It is not uncommon." "No," said Tick, looking at his data. "Our long-range sensors detect activity in their system. Ships moving between their planets. Energy signatures consistent with an active civilization. They are there. They simply choose not to engage with us." Ambassador Kelra's form shimmered with what might have been frustration. "This is unacceptable. They hold valuable territory in a protected zone. Refugee populations are desperate for living space. If Earth refuses to participate in galactic society, perhaps we should reclaim those sectors." Several delegates voiced their agreement. The idea had been proposed before many times but never acted upon. Chancellor Vryn raised one clawed hand for silence. "The matter is complicated. Earth's territory was granted by ancient treaty. We cannot simply revoke it without cause. Isolation is not a crime, but it is suspicious," said another voice. This came from Admiral Krall, the security chief of the council. He was a massive being built like a boulder with 4 arms, a species that suddenly withdraws from all contact after centuries of participation. "It concerns me. What do you suggest?" Vryn asked. Krall's eyes narrowed. "Increase surveillance at minimum. We should know what they are doing in there." Before anyone could respond, the lights in the chamber flickered. Everyone looked up in surprise. The council's technology never failed. It was built with redundancies upon redundancies. "Technical malfunction?" someone asked. Tick was frantically working on his datapad, his small fingers moving rapidly. "No malfunction. There is something else. I am detecting unusual energy readings from multiple sectors." "What kind of energy readings?" Krall demanded. "I do not know. I have never seen patterns like this before." The moment passed and the lights stabilized. Most delegates dismissed it as a minor glitch. They had more pressing concerns. "We should move on to the next matter," Vryn said. "The Void Marauders have attacked another system in the Outer Rim." This got everyone's attention. The Void Marauders were the Council's greatest threat. They were a nomadic empire of warriors who consumed everything in their path. Worlds, resources, entire populations disappeared when the Marauders arrived. "How many casualties?" Kelra asked quietly. "The entire planet of Xeris Prime," Krall reported. 3 billion souls. Gone in 2 days." Silence fell over the chamber. This was the largest single loss in decades. "The Marauders are getting bolder," Krall continued. "They used to target only outer colonies. Now they strike closer to core worlds. Our defensive fleets cannot be everywhere at once." "We need to increase military production," suggested one delegate. "We need better technology," argued another. "We need unity," said a third. "But half the council members cannot agree on what color the sky should be, let alone military strategy." Arguments broke out across the chamber. This was normal. The council was designed to represent everyone, which meant decisions took forever to make. While they debated, the Marauders kept attacking. Vryn tried to restore order, but the assembly had devolved into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Translation devices struggled to keep up. In the far corner of the chamber, a young analyst named Bix sat at a monitoring station. She was new to the council staff, barely a year into her position. While everyone else argued about the marauders, she stared at her screen with growing concern. Those energy readings Tick had mentioned were getting stronger. And they were not random. They formed patterns. Specific organized patterns that suggested intelligence behind them. Bix raised her hand, trying to get someone's attention. "Excuse me, I think we should look at these readings." No one heard her over the shouting. She tried again, louder. "These energy signatures are unusual. They are coming from Earth's territory." Still no one listened. Bix made a decision. She saved all the data to a private file and marked it for further investigation. If the senior staff would not listen, she would document everything herself. Something was happening near Earth's space, something big. The assembly finally ended 3 hours later with no real decisions made. This was also normal. The delegates filed out, returning to their ships or quarters. They would meet again in 3 months to argue about the same problems. Chancellor Vryn remained behind, looking tired. Kral approached him. "The situation is deteriorating," Kral said bluntly. "The marauders grow stronger while we grow weaker through indecision." "I know," Vryn replied. "But what can I do? I cannot force unity where none exists." "Perhaps we need a crisis big enough to force unity." Vryn looked at his security chief with concern. "Be careful what you wish for, old friend. Crisis has a way of arriving when we are least prepared for it." Neither of them noticed young Bix in the corner, still studying her data. Neither of them saw the patterns she was beginning to recognize. Neither of them understood that the crisis Vryn feared was already on its way. 50 years ago, Earth had made a choice. They had looked at the galaxy, seen what was coming, and decided the Council could not save them. So they stopped asking for help. They stopped participating in endless debates. They went home to prepare. And now, after half a century of silence, humanity was almost ready to return. The galaxy had forgotten about Earth. That was about to change. The trade station Meridian Point sat at the edge of Council-controlled space. It was a busy place where merchants from 1,000 worlds came to buy and sell goods. Ships arrived and departed every few minutes. The station hummed with activity and life. Security Chief Krail happened to be visiting Meridian Point when everything changed. He was inspecting defensive installations when the alarms began to sound. Not the usual alerts for incoming traffic, but the deep, urgent warnings reserved for emergencies. "What is happening?" Kral demanded, rushing to the command center. The station commander, a nervous four-eyed being named Plex, was staring at his screens in disbelief. "Something is coming through. Something massive. The marauders? No, different, very different. Space itself began to tear." That was the only way to describe it. A massive rift opened in the empty void beyond the station. Energy crackled and danced along its edges. Every ship in the vicinity backed away, their captains terrified. Then they came through. 1 ship. 2 ships. 10 ships. The count kept rising. 50, 100, 300. "How many?" Kral whispered. Plex's voice shook. "Computer counts 1,000 vessels. All identical class. All in perfect formation." The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They were massive, each one twice the size of the Council's largest dreadnoughts. Their hulls were dark gray, almost black, with lines of blue light running along their surfaces. They moved with impossible precision, as if they were one organism rather than 1,000 separate vessels. "Are their weapons powered?" Kral asked. "I cannot tell. I cannot read their systems at all. Our scanners are getting nothing but interference." The 1,000 ships arranged themselves in a geometric pattern that hurt to look at. It was too perfect, too calculated. Then, as one, they stopped moving. Silence fell over Meridian Point. Every ship, every station, every being within sensor range held their breath and waited. A communication signal came through. Audio only. The voice was human, speaking the common galactic language with a slight accent that had not been heard in 50 years. "This is Fleet Admiral Jiwan of the Earth Defense Force. We come in peace. We mean no harm to any vessel or station. Please remain calm." Kral found his voice. "This is Security Chief Kral of the Galactic Council. You are entering protected space with a military force. Explain your intentions immediately." There was a pause. Then Admiral Jiwan responded. "Earth returns to the galactic community. We have been absent. We apologize for any concern our arrival has caused." "You call this a peaceful return?" With 1,000 warships, we come prepared, Chief Kral, prepared but peaceful. We wish to speak with the Council. Before Kral could respond, one of the human ships began to move. Not toward the station, but toward a nearby asteroid field. Station sensors tracked it carefully. What is it doing? Plex asked. They watched as the ship approached a massive asteroid, easily a kilometer wide. Instead of going around it, the ship simply passed through the solid rock as if it were not there. The asteroid remained intact, untouched, as the ship emerged on the other side. That is impossible, Kral said. Matter cannot pass through matter. Apparently it can now, Plex replied. Another ship demonstrated a different capability. It accelerated from a complete stop to speeds that should have required minutes or hours to achieve. It did so in less than a second. Then it stopped just as quickly, violating every law of physics the galaxy understood. A third ship generated a field of energy that stretched between it and two neighboring vessels. The energy took the form of geometric patterns that pulsed and shifted. Station instruments detected power levels that made no sense. They were reading energy outputs equivalent to a small star. They are showing off, Kral realized. They want us to see what they can do. It is working, Plex admitted. I am terrified. More communication channels opened. This time the voice belonged to someone else. A woman who identified herself as Science Officer Heron. Meridian Point Station, we are transmitting medical data that may be of interest. We have developed treatments for several diseases common to species in this sector. We offer this information freely as a gesture of goodwill. Plex looked at Kral, who nodded. They accepted the transmission. Station medical staff immediately began analyzing the data, and their excited reports soon followed. The treatments were revolutionary. Diseases that had plagued certain species for generations could be cured with these new methods. Why are they doing this? Plex wondered. They are making sure we know they are friendly, Kral said. Show strength, then show kindness. Smart diplomacy. Another human ship moved closer to the station. This one was smaller than the others, clearly designed for direct communication rather than combat. A docking request came through. They want to send someone aboard, Plex reported. Kral made a quick decision. Allow it. But full security protocols. I want weapons ready even if we do not show them. The human ship docked with elegant precision. A few minutes later, a human walked into the station's receiving area. She was young, perhaps 30 years old by human standards. She wore a dark blue uniform with silver markings that indicated her rank. Her name tag read Captain Minho. No, Kral corrected himself, reading the rank insignia more carefully. Not a captain. A ship commander, which meant one of those massive warships answered to her. Security Chief Kral, she said, bowing slightly in the human gesture of respect. Thank you for allowing me aboard. My name is Minho. I command the ENS Indomitable. Your fleet has caused considerable alarm, Kral said carefully. Minho nodded. We anticipated this. 50 years is a long silence. We understand the galaxy has questions. Admiral Jiwan has requested an emergency session with the Council. We have much to discuss. The Council will want answers before agreeing to any meeting. Then let me give you some answers now. Minho gestured to a nearby viewport where the human fleet hung in space. Earth watched the galaxy for a long time. We saw the conflicts, the inefficiency, the growing threat of the Void Marauders. We concluded that the galaxy was heading toward disaster. So you abandoned us? No, we chose to prepare. My people unified under a single goal: survive what is coming. We dedicated everything to that goal. Every resource, every mind, every dream. For 50 years we built and studied and pushed ourselves beyond what we thought possible. Kral studied her face. She believed what she was saying. There was no deception there, only certainty. And now you return, he said. Why now? Minho's expression darkened. Because the disaster we feared is almost here. The Void Marauders are not just raiders. They are the advance wave of something worse, and the Council's forces cannot stop them. You think you can? We know we can, but we need the Council's cooperation. We need to work together. Before Kral could respond, emergency alarms sounded throughout the station. Plex's voice came over the intercom, tight with panic. We have reports coming in from the Helios sector. The Void Marauders have attacked 3 core worlds simultaneously. Billions are dead. The defense fleets were destroyed in minutes. The news hit like a physical blow. Core worlds, not the outer colonies, but established planets deep in Council territory. The marauders had never struck so far inside before. Minho closed her eyes briefly as if in pain. When she opened them, her voice was steel. It has begun. The major offensive we predicted. Chief Krull, we do not have time for long debates. Admiral Jiwan needs to speak with the Council immediately. Lives depend on it. Krull looked at this young human commander, at the 1,000 ships waiting patiently in space, at the reports of devastation flooding in from across the galaxy. He made his decision. I will arrange the emergency session. But Captain Minho, understand this. If your people are deceiving us in any way, if this is some elaborate threat, the entire galaxy will turn against Earth. Minho met his eyes without fear. We are not the threat, Security Chief. We are the response to the threat. You will see that soon enough. Outside the station, the 1,000 human warships maintained their perfect formation. Silent, patient, ready. Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber filled faster than it ever had before. Delegates rushed to their seats. Some came directly from their sleeping quarters, still adjusting their garments. Others had traveled through the night from distant stations. Everyone wanted to be present for this moment. Earth had returned. Chancellor Vryn stood at the central podium watching as the human delegation entered the chamber. They walked with quiet confidence, their dark blue uniforms standing out among the countless colors and forms of alien species. At their head was Admiral G1, a woman who looked to be in her 50s. Her hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes took in every detail of the room. Behind her walked Dr. Soman carrying a data case. Next came Diplomat Hyegen, whose job was to handle the political aspects of whatever was about to happen. Captain Minho was there too, the same officer who had spoken with Krull at Meridian Point. The humans reached the speaker's platform. Jiwan bowed to the council, the gesture respectful but not submissive. Honored delegates, Vryn began. We have called this emergency session to address the sudden return of Earth after 50 years of silence. Admiral Jiwan, the council demands an explanation. Jiwan stepped forward. Her voice was clear and carried easily through the chamber. I will give you the truth. 50 years ago, Earth made a difficult choice. We looked at the galaxy and saw the future. We saw endless debates while threats grew stronger. We saw good people arguing about how to fight fires while the fires consumed worlds. We saw the Void Marauders becoming more aggressive, and we knew that eventually they would threaten everyone, including Earth. So you ran away? Ambassador Kelra's voice was sharp with accusation. No, Jiwan replied. We chose to prepare. We asked ourselves a hard question. What good would it do for Earth to sit in these chambers and argue alongside you? Our voice was small. Our military was weak. Our technology was average at best. We could contribute nothing meaningful to the galaxy's defense. So you abandoned your allies, another delegate called out. Jiwan's expression hardened. Were we truly allies? When Earth asked for help defending our outer colonies 20 years before we left, how many of you responded? When we proposed a unified military command to counter the marauders, how many of you voted in favor? Silence fell over the chamber. The humans had kept records. We did not abandon anyone, Jiwan continued. We made a calculated decision. Instead of wasting 50 years in meetings that changed nothing, we would spend 50 years changing everything. We unified our entire species under one goal. Every human, every resource, every moment of time was dedicated to a single purpose: leap forward. She gestured to Dr. Soman, who stepped forward and activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the council floor. We started with ourselves, Dr. Soman explained. Humanity was divided into hundreds of nations, all competing with each other. We ended that. One government, one military, one direction. It was not easy. Many resisted. But when we showed them the alternative, when we showed them projections of what the marauders would do when they reached Earth, resistance faded, the hologram shifted, showing images of Earth's cities transforming over decades, underground facilities, orbital construction, massive shipyards in the outer planets. Next, we revolutionized our technology. Soman continued. We took every theory, every experimental idea, every dream that scientists had proposed and made them reality. Quantum computing became standard. We learned to manipulate space-time itself. We unlocked antimatter production on an industrial scale. We created biological enhancements that improved human cognition and physical ability. Impossible, someone said. Such progress would take centuries. It takes centuries if you work at a normal pace, and Soman replied. We did not work at a normal pace. Every human was educated in science and engineering from childhood. Our brightest minds were given unlimited resources. Failure was expected and encouraged because each failure taught us something new, and we had no distractions, no wars among ourselves, no political games. Just progress. The hologram showed schematics of the human warships. Delegates leaned forward, trying to understand the designs. Our ships can phase through matter by temporarily shifting their molecular structure, Soman explained. They can accelerate instantly because they manipulate localized space-time. Their weapons operate outside normal physical laws. Each ship is controlled by a human consciousness linked directly to the vessel's systems. The ship and the crew are one entity. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the chamber. This was not just advanced technology. This was a fundamental leap beyond anything the galaxy possessed. Diplomat Hyejin took over, her voice calm and measured. Earth wishes to rejoin the galactic community. We offer our technology, our military, and our support. In exchange, we ask for full integration, a permanent seat on the Council, access to galactic trade networks, recognition as a major power. You ask for much, Chancellor Vryn said carefully. We offer much in return, Hyejin replied. The medical data we transmitted to Meridian Point is just the beginning. We have cures for diseases, solutions to energy crises, agricultural techniques that could end hunger on 1,000 worlds. We share all of this freely. Ambassador Kelra's form shimmered with suspicion. Why? Why share such valuable knowledge? Because technology means nothing if everyone is dead, Jiwan said bluntly. The Void Marauders are the immediate threat. But they are not the only danger the galaxy faces. Unity is the only path to survival. We learned that truth. Now we offer to help you learn it too. The debate began. Delegates argued about whether to trust Earth. Some saw opportunity. Others saw threat. The humans stood patiently on their platform, answering questions when asked, waiting when not. Then Security Chief Kral entered the chamber, moving fast. His face held an expression that made everyone stop talking. Chancellor, we have received urgent reports. The Void Marauders have launched a coordinated assault across 12 sectors. They are not raiding. This is a full invasion. 3 core worlds have fallen. 7 more are under attack. Casualties are in the billions. Horror rippled through the chamber. 12 sectors. This was not just an attack. This was the beginning of a war that could destroy the entire galactic civilization. Delegates began shouting. Some demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to flee to their home worlds. Panic spread like a disease. Admiral Jiwan walked to the center of the platform. She did not raise her voice, but somehow everyone heard her. This is what we prepared for. This is why we return now. The Marauders have begun their final offensive. Our fleets cannot possibly defend everything at once, Kral said, his voice heavy with despair. Jiwan met his eyes. Your fleets cannot. Ours can. What are you saying? Give us authorization to act. Give Earth Command authority over defensive operations. We can stop the Marauders. We can protect the core worlds. But we need the Council to stand aside and let us work. You want us to hand military authority to a species we have not seen in 50 years? Vryn asked in disbelief. I want you to make a choice, Jiwan replied. You can debate and argue while worlds burn as you have always done. Or you can trust that Earth prepared for exactly this moment. We have 1,000 ships ready to deploy. We have strategies prepared for every scenario. We have spent 50 years getting ready for this war. And if you fail, someone asked, then the galaxy falls just as it would have without us. But if we succeed, billions of lives will be saved. Silence fell over the chamber. Every delegate understood the weight of this moment. They were being asked to trust humanity with everything. Their worlds, their people, their future. Chancellor Vryn looked around the chamber, seeing fear and uncertainty on every face. He thought about the decades of indecision, the endless meetings that changed nothing, the growing threat that everyone saw but no one knew how to counter. He made his decision. By emergency powers vested in this office, I grant Earth temporary command authority over Council military operations. Admiral Jiwan, you have your authorization. Do not fail us, Jiwan bowed deeply. We will not, Chancellor. Earth has prepared for 50 years. Now you will see what humanity can do when we truly commit to something. She turned to her team. Contact the fleet. Begin deployment. Execute Plan Omega. As the humans worked on their communication devices, Diplomat Hyojin addressed the council one more time. In the coming days, you will see things you think impossible. Do not be afraid. Earth has returned, and we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone. The human delegation left the chamber, moving with purpose and speed. Outside, the 1,000 warships were already moving, breaking into battle groups, preparing to jump to a dozen different war zones. The galaxy had dismissed Earth, forgotten about the quiet species that had withdrawn from the community. Now humanity would remind everyone what humans could accomplish when they stopped talking and started doing. The war had begun, and Earth was ready. The Void Marauders came like a dark wave across the galaxy. Their ships numbered in the tens of thousands, each one a weapon of conquest and destruction. They had been preparing for this moment for decades, slowly building their forces in the dark spaces between systems. Now they struck everywhere at once. In the Helios sector, 3 billion civilians screamed as marauder weapons tore through cities. The Council's defense fleet fought bravely but was overwhelmed in minutes. The marauders did not just conquer, they consumed. Everything was fuel for their expansion. Then humanity arrived. 50 human warships dropped out of quantum space directly above the largest marauder fleet. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the ENS Indomitable, her mind linked directly to the ship's systems. She could feel the vessel as if it were her own body. Every weapon, every shield, every sensor was an extension of her consciousness. All ships, combat formation Delta, she commanded. Target the command carriers first. The human fleet moved as one. They did not use conventional engines. Instead, they folded space around themselves, appearing in new positions instantly. To the marauders, it looked like the human ships were teleporting, vanishing from one location and reappearing in another. The marauders opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams, kinetic missiles, radiation bursts. Weapons that could melt through standard ship armor struck the human vessels and passed through harmlessly. Phasing systems at maximum, reported Minho's tactical officer. Enemy weapons cannot touch us while we maintain quantum displacement. The human ships returned fire, but these were not normal weapons. Each blast warped space-time itself, creating zones where the laws of physics simply stopped working. Marauder ships caught in these zones came apart at the atomic level. Thousands of years of stolen technology could not save them from weapons that rewrote reality. Enemy fleet at 40% strength, the tactical officer reported. They're attempting to flee. Do not let them, Minho ordered. Every ship that escapes will attack another world. End them here. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it ended, 3,000 marauder ships were debris and the human fleet had taken no casualties. Below them, the survivors on the planet looked up in wonder at the strange ships that had saved them. Across the galaxy, similar battles raged. Each human battle group was outnumbered 10 to 1 or more. It did not matter. The technology gap was too vast. In the Kepler system, Commander Una directed her ships in a defensive pattern around a massive refugee convoy. 10,000 civilian ships carrying 20 million souls were fleeing the marauder advance. If they fell, it would be a genocide remembered for centuries. The marauders sent 5,000 ships to intercept the convoy. They wanted those refugees, not to save them, but to add them to their labor forces. The marauders did not believe in mercy. They will reach the convoy in 12 minutes, Una's sensor operator warned. Then we stop them in 11, Una replied. 30 human ships faced 5,000 marauder vessels. The mathematics were absurd. The marauders knew they had won. They charged forward, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Una activated a weapon system that humanity had spent 20 years perfecting. Gravity manipulation on a massive scale. Space itself bent around her ships, creating wells of crushing force. The leading marauder vessels were pulled off course, dragged into collision with each other. Hundreds of ships became tangled wreckage in seconds. Maintain the gravity wells, Una ordered. Funnel them into kill zones. The human fleet did not need to destroy all 5,000 ships. They just needed to slow them down, control their movement, and pick them apart systematically. It was not a battle. It was mathematics made lethal. The refugees escaped. The marauder fleet was reduced to scattered survivors running for their lives, but not every battle went so smoothly. Lieutenant Daehyun was a fighter pilot, one of thousands who flew the small fast attack craft that screened the larger warships. He was young, barely 25 years old, and had trained his entire adult life for this war. His squadron was protecting a human carrier when the Marauders revealed a new weapon. A massive ship, larger than anything they had deployed before, emerged from hyperspace. Its hull was covered in strange symbols that pulsed with sickly light. "What is that?" someone asked over the squadron channel. They found out seconds later. The massive ship fired a beam of energy that simply erased everything it touched. Matter, energy, even space itself seemed to vanish in that beam's path. One of the human warships caught in the blast disappeared along with its entire crew of 800 people. "All fighters engage that ship," Dahyun's squadron leader ordered. "We have to take it down before it fires again." 50 fighters dove toward the Marauder superweapon. They were gnats attacking a giant, but gnats with fusion warheads and determination. Dahyun pushed his fighter to maximum speed, weaving through defensive fire. His hands were steady on the controls even as his heart raced. He saw other fighters exploding around him. Good people he had trained with, laughed with, were dying, but they kept going. This was what they had prepared for. Target the energy emitters along its central axis. The squadron leader called out. "That is where the weapon draws power." Dahyun lined up his shot. The targeting system in his mind, linked directly to his fighter, showed him the perfect trajectory. He fired everything he had, every missile, every plasma burst, everything. His weapon struck true. So did the weapons of 20 other fighters who had the same idea. The Marauder ship's power systems overloaded. The strange symbols flickered and died. Then the entire vessel exploded in a blast that lit up the sector. "Target destroyed," someone said with weary relief. But Dahyun's squadron had lost 37 fighters out of 50. He looked at the names of the dead scrolling across his display and felt something harden in his chest. This was the cost. This was what war truly meant. On the ground, General Borum led human Marines in a desperate rescue operation. The Marauders had taken a council world and enslaved millions. The survivors were being held in concentration camps, waiting to be processed into the Marauder labor system. Borum's forces dropped from orbit in armored pods, coming down like meteors. They hit the ground already firing. Human soldiers wore powered armor that multiplied their strength and speed. Each Marine was worth 10 normal soldiers. But the Marauders had numbers. Thousands of guards defending the camps. They knew the humans were coming and were ready. "Push through," Borum commanded. "Those civilians cannot wait." The battle was brutal. Close quarters combat where advanced technology mattered less than courage and determination. Marines fell. Marauder guards fell faster. Borum himself took a plasma blast to the shoulder but kept fighting, his armor's medical systems keeping him alive and moving. They reached the first camp and broke down the gates. Millions of alien civilians stared at the human soldiers in shock. Some had been prisoners for weeks, starved and beaten. Children cried. Adults could barely stand. "Get them to the transport ships," Borum ordered. "Every life matters. No one gets left behind." The evacuation took 6 hours under constant attack. Human ships overhead provided cover. Marines held the perimeter, dying to buy minutes for the civilians to escape. But they did it. 3 million souls were pulled from the camps and taken to safety. Borum limped back to his command ship, covered in blood and dirt. He had lost 200 Marines. 200 families would receive notifications that their loved ones died saving strangers on a world most humans had never heard of. The price was high. But humanity paid it. Admiral Jiwon coordinated all operations from her flagship. Reports flooded in from every battle group. Victories, yes, but also losses. The Marauders were learning, adapting their tactics. They brought out ancient weapons, technology they had stolen from a dozen extinct species. "We have lost 18 ships," her operations officer reported. "Casualties are at 7,000. Jiwon felt each number like a knife. Those were people. Real humans who had trusted her leadership and died following her orders. "The Marauder command fleet is gathering at the Omega Quadrant," her intelligence officer said. "They are making a final stand. At least 30,000 ships. Then we end this," Jiwon decided. "Signal all battle groups. Begin convergence on Omega Quadrant. We finish this war today." The human fleet began to gather, drawing back from individual fights to mass for one final battle. The Marauders did the same. Both sides knew this would decide everything. Captain Minho received her orders and turned her ship toward Omega Quadrant. Lieutenant Dahyun and what remained of his squadron headed there too. Commander Yuna's ships joined the convergence. Even General Borum's Marines would be needed for what was coming. Earth had returned to save the galaxy. Now they had to prove they could finish what they started. The final battle was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the final battle at Omega Quadrant. The war was over. The Void Marauders were broken, their fleet scattered, their empire in ruins. The galaxy was free. But freedom had come at a terrible price. Ambassador Hyejin stood at the window of her new office on the council station. She was Earth's permanent representative now, a position that came with a seat on the security directorate. She watched ships move through space, traders and diplomats and families going about their lives that almost ended under Marauder rule. Behind her, the daily reports waited on her desk. Trade agreements to review, diplomatic requests to answer, complaints from species who resented Earth's new power. The work never stopped. There was a gentle knock at her door. "Come in," she called. Captain Minho entered, though she was Admiral Minho now. The promotion had come with new responsibilities. She commanded the joint human-alien defense fleet, working with species who had been strangers 6 months ago. "How are the integration programs going?" Hyejin asked. Minho settled into a chair. Slowly, some species adapt quickly to working alongside humans. Others have trouble. It is not easy to change centuries of military tradition overnight, but they are trying. Yes, they see what human technology can do. They want to learn. We just have to be patient. Hyejin smiled slightly. Patience is not a skill we practiced much during our 50 years of isolation. We moved fast and broke things. Now we have to learn to slow down. The Council appreciates Earth's contributions, Minho said. I read the latest reports. Our medical programs have saved 40 billion lives from disease. Our agricultural technology has ended famine on 200 worlds. The energy systems we shared have brought light to planets that lived in darkness. And yet some species hate us for it, Hyejin said quietly. Success breeds resentment. We came from nowhere and became the most powerful species in the galaxy in less than a year. That frightens people. Chancellor Vryn certainly felt that fear, though he hid it well. He had called a full council assembly for today, and Hyejin knew the old reptilian leader wanted to discuss exactly how much power Earth should have. She made her way to the council chamber with Minho at her side. The great hall was full, every seat occupied. The atmosphere was tense. Vryn began the session with formal ceremony, thanking Earth for its service during the war. He spoke of the billions saved and the threat defeated. Then his tone changed. However, we must address concerns about Earth's growing influence. Several member species have expressed worry that humanity is becoming too dominant. They fear we are replacing one empire with another. Hyejin stood to respond. Chancellor, Earth seeks no empire. We offer partnership, not rule. Yet you control the most powerful military force in galactic history, countered Ambassador Kelra, her misty form swirling with agitation. You have the technology to destroy any world that opposes you. How can we be partners when the power balance is so unequal? By choosing trust, Hyejin replied simply. Earth could have returned and conquered the galaxy. We have the power to do so. Instead, we fought to save you. We died to protect species we barely knew. 200 ships lost, 12,000 humans dead. We did not have to pay that price. We chose to. The chamber fell silent. The names of the dead were public record, memorialized on Earth and in every system the human fleet had defended. No one could deny the sacrifice, but what happens next? Asked another delegate. When the next crisis comes, will Earth always be there to save us? And what do you ask in return? Dr. Soman stood from her seat in the gallery. She had been working with alien scientists for months, teaching them human technology. We ask for something very simple. Learn, grow, catch up to us. We share our knowledge freely because we do not want to be alone at the top. We want partners who can stand beside us as equals. That is why we teach rather than hoard our technology. It will take generations for most species to reach your level, someone pointed out. Then we will wait, Soman said. Meanwhile, we face the universe together. Earth is strong today, but tomorrow you can be just as strong. That is what we offer. A path forward where everyone rises. The debate continued for hours. Hyejin answered questions, addressed concerns, and made promises. Some delegates were won over. Others remained suspicious. But that was politics. Change was always hard. Far from the council chambers on a world called Nexus Prime, young Officer Sujin was experiencing a different kind of change. She was human, barely 20 years old, and she served in the integrated fleet. Her squadron included pilots from 6 different species. Lieutenant Sujin, your formation is sloppy. Her squad leader barked over the communication channel. The squad leader was a four-armed alien named Trix, and he did not give humans special treatment. Apologies, sir, Sujin replied, tightening her formation. Adjusting now. She had lost her brother in the war. He had been a Marine under General Borum, killed in the rescue of those camps. She could have chosen bitterness. Instead, she chose service. Working alongside the species her brother died to save seemed like the best way to honor his memory. After the training exercise, Trix approached her. You fly well for someone so young. Your brother would be proud. Sujin blinked in surprise. You knew about him? I know all my pilot's stories. I lost family to the Marauders too. Many of us did. That is why we train together now, so it never happens again. Later that day, Sujin attended a memorial service. Humans and aliens gathered together to remember those who had fallen in the war. Names were read aloud. Candles were lit. Tears were shed by beings with very different biology, but the grief was universal. Back on Earth, Admiral Jiwan walked through a garden. She was retired now, having led humanity through the war and earned the right to rest. But rest felt strange after 50 years of constant preparation and 6 months of brutal combat. She stopped at a memorial wall where 12,000 names were carved. Every human who died in the war was listed here. She ran her fingers over the letters, remembering faces and voices. They saved the galaxy, said a voice behind her. Jiwan turned to see a young woman, perhaps 18 years old. Did you know someone on this wall? Jiwan asked gently. My father. He was on the ship that got destroyed by that Marauder superweapon. I was angry for a long time. Why did he have to die saving aliens we did not even know? Did you find an answer? The young woman looked at the memorial. Yes. He died because it was the right thing to do. Because someone had to stand between the darkness and the innocent. Because that is what humans do when we are at our best. Jiwan felt tears on her cheeks. Your father would be very proud of you. I am joining the fleet next year, following his path. After the young woman left, Jiwan stood alone with the names. The cost had been terrible, but the alternative would have been worse. A galaxy enslaved or destroyed. Earth had chosen to pay the price for freedom. In the council chambers, a vote was taking place. The question was simple. Should Earth maintain permanent authority over the integrated defense fleet? The votes came in slowly. Some species voted yes immediately. Others took longer to decide. When the count finished, the result was clear. By a margin of 73%, Earth was granted the authority it sought. Chancellor Vryn looked at Ambassador Hagen with something like respect. You have won the Council's trust. Do not waste it, we will not, Hagen promised. Earth learned something during our 50 years alone. Unity is survival. Division is death. We will work every day to keep this galaxy united. As she left the chamber, Minho was waiting. How did it go? We have work to do, Hagen replied. But that is nothing new. Earth has been working for 50 years. We can keep going. Across the galaxy, humanity's ships patrolled the borders. Human scientists taught alien students. Human doctors healed alien patients. Human engineers built stations and ships alongside workers from 100 worlds. Some species still feared Earth. Some still resented humanity's sudden dominance. That was natural. Power always brought fear, but more species were learning to trust. They saw humans bleeding and dying to protect strangers. They saw technology shared freely, rather than hoarded. They saw a species that could have conquered but chose to cooperate instead. On a frontier world, a human named Kyung-ho was helping build a school. He worked alongside aliens whose names he could barely pronounce, constructing something that would outlast them all. Children would learn here. The next generation would grow up knowing peace because this generation had fought for it. Why do you help us? Asked one of the alien workers. Your people could be home celebrating your victory. Kyung-ho wiped sweat from his forehead and smiled. This is our victory. A galaxy where children go to school instead of running from marauders. That is what we fought for. That is what we won. Earth had skipped 200 galactic meetings. Humanity had disappeared for 50 years and returned with 1,000 warships. Not to conquer, but to protect. Not to rule, but to serve. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed with it. There would be new challenges ahead. The marauders were broken, but not extinct. Other threats lurked in unexplored space. Political tensions would rise and fall. Nothing was certain, but Earth had proven something important. When humanity focused its entire will on a single goal, when humans stopped arguing and started doing, they could achieve the impossible.